Hello again. It's Paul with New Jersey Recovery and Wellness. Thank you for continuing to check out our 30-day series on how to support a loved one with a substance use disorder or in recovery. Check out part 6 of our 30-day series. Number 6, establish healthy boundaries. We may hear about boundaries from time to time, but before we do a deep dive into this topic, I want to define what healthy boundaries are. So defining boundaries is a process of determining what behaviors you are supporting and what behaviors you are not supporting. And in this case, we're talking about with our loved one who has a substance use disorder. Boundaries may be physical, such as your body, your personal space, and they can also be emotional, such as how a person talks to you or treats you. Having and clearly communicating boundaries is helpful both for the person that you love who has a substance use disorder and also helpful for you. It's clearly communicating to them what's okay and what's not okay in your particular relationship. So think about, just as an example, parents who are raising teen children. What are some common boundaries that come up there? First and foremost, you might think about a curfew. So when is it okay for a person of your age to come home? You might also take a look at boundaries surrounding time spent on technology, time spent with friends, time spent during school, doing schoolwork. You may also take a look at the ability for this person to manage their responsibilities, such as getting themselves to school on time, completing school assignments on time. And then, of course, if there's any extracurriculars, having jobs, etc., making sure that they're able to communicate their schedule. So we can set boundaries for our teens and really help them in learning and maintaining these boundaries. So in this sense, we can serve as a model for these teens to really help them out with a new skill set that maybe they haven't yet mastered. In essence, we're doing the same thing for a person that has a substance use disorder, even though they are likely a little bit more older than a teenager. People who have substance use disorders often struggle with boundaries, just as part of the natural course and process of addiction. The substance user often struggles with maintaining boundaries for themselves, usually related to their own substance use. And then later on, as their substance use progresses, these boundary issues can take place outside of that relationship with the substance, often impacting relationships with family and friends, and continuing on to other types of relationships, such as employment, legal, and financial areas of their lives, amongst others. When a person in your life is struggling with a particular skill, it can be helpful for them as well as for you if you model that skill for them. And this is really what we're looking to do with establishing these healthy boundaries. So I recognize that my loved one may have a difficult time with this. They're not going to have a better time unless they have a person that cares for them in their life that is willing to step up to the plate and to model and establish these boundaries for them and then hold them out consistently. Another valid reason to establish these boundaries is that they are helpful and protecting to you, the loved one who is trying to be there for the person that has the substance use disorder. Having boundaries is a form of self-care and serves as a guideline to indicate when it might be necessary to bring in some other outside help. It's often considered a best practice to just really have a sit down with your loved one and talk to them openly about your concerns and about what you're willing to do and not willing to do to help support them in whatever's going on in their lives. You can ask your loved one what they need, what they believe that they need when it comes to support, and you can also share with them what you're willing to do, what you're willing to give in terms of support. You can also outline what you're not willing to do when you're seeing some problematic behaviors. Sometimes people struggle to really come up with or identify what their needs are in a relationship to help really support boundaries. And as a family member, sometimes some of those needs really can be centered on things that we take for granted. So maybe what I may need in this relationship is I may need honesty. I may need you to be upfront with me. I may need you to be open to seeing a therapist. There might be some things that immediately come up when you think about your needs in a relationship. Then again, a person may really struggle with identifying what's going to help them feeling a little bit better. And if that's the case, you too can certainly go out and seek your own support to really try to work through what your needs are in this relationship, so that you can then come into this type of conversation with your loved one with a substance use disorder to be able to talk very, very plainly, calmly, and openly about what's going on and what can happen for support. And then, of course, once we're done talking about support, we also want to outline these are the behaviors that are going to create an opportunity to have a consequence, and whatever those consequences may be. So some may suggest a tough love type of approach, and it does exist. It does work for some people. This approach is not for everyone and is certainly not applicable in every single scenario. Something that I will say over and over again to every family member that I work with who has a loved one that has a substance use disorder is never put out a boundary or never put out a consequence that you are not comfortable with. It's not going to work, and more often than not, you're not going to follow through on it. Healthy boundaries should really have three main focal points. It's healthy for your loved one that has a substance use disorder. It's healthy for you. And it's something that you feel comfortable with, something that you're going to be able to stand by and follow through on. If one of those elements isn't in play, it's probably not the right fit for this particular situation. So take some time, really identify what your needs are. Have a conversation with your loved one about what their needs are for support, and then talk openly about what you can do and are willing to do to support this individual, and what you are not willing to do to support if you do see some concerning behaviors. Outline what those concerning behaviors are, and then talk about some better alternatives. You may want to revisit this conversation from time to time as things do change. Thank you all so much for checking out Day 6 of National Recovery Month. If you liked what you saw, click that like and subscribe, ring that bell to make sure you get notifications for future videos, and of course, share this information with others that you think can benefit from it. Again, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.